I'm Valentine Warner and welcome to my Seafood Secrets. In this 8-part series, I'm going to cook some of my favourite recipes and give you all the tips and tricks you need to cook perfect fish every time. I'm going to make a very simple fish soup. This is a kind of slightly cheaty version, but if you want to put a wonderful French-style fish soup on the table, it can be done pretty quickly. So I'm going to start with a hot pan here that's heating up, a little bit of vegetable oil in the bottom. And then all those veg, you might have a kind of a carrot rattling around at the bottom of the fridge. Just chop that up. Give it a going over, don't want the top. And into the oil it goes. Next, a stick of celery. No ceremony there. Fennel bulb. An onion, skin and all. Don't bother peeling it. The skin actually adds to the colour. Garlic, just take the whole half a bulb and pop it in. I've got some rather kind of sad, slightly bedraggled looking parsley here, so I'll just take a little bit of that. Perfect for soup. Twist it in half and in that goes. I've got some thyme here. Dried thyme would be just as good. In whole, don't need to take the leaves off. This is all going to be parsed later on, put through a sieve. A couple of bay leaves. And now I'm going to put in some very aromatic seeds, so I'm going to use some star anise, a good pinch of fennel seeds, and about 4 or 5 cloves. Now while the vegetables are ticking over, I've got some prawns here. There's a lot of tasty stuff in their heads and they're really going to add to the stock. So I'm going to peel these over the pot. All the shells can go in. And now I'm going to put in a good squeeze of tomato puree. Just smelling all the veg, the aromats and the prawn heads in here, I know how much extra flavour is going to be lent to my pre-bought fish stock. So now, a good splash of wine, a good glass, just cook that for a couple of minutes or so, try and get rid of that kind of alcohol twang. Okay, now my base has been prepared, I'm just going to pour in some fish stock. This is pre-bought fish stock, no making of a fish stock from scratch here. So a few more things to add, some chopped tomatoes, some saffron, a good pinch, and the juice of 1 orange. Already, without any reducing, that is delicious. Now it's time to make the cheats roux, and just for the sake of cheating, although it's not strictly speaking a roux, let's call it that. This is hot Tunisian chili puree, so not too much, probably about a teaspoon. To that I'm going to add some mayonnaise. To make the shop-bought mayonnaise seem a little bit more homemade, I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. I'm going to add a little extra bit of lemon juice. Instead of adding salt, I'm going to add 2 very finely mashed up anchovies. And I'm going to chop those up very finely with some garlic. Now, I'm going to chop everything up very, very, very small. And then really puree it with the side of the knife. Now I'm going to pass my fish soup. Turn off the heat. Now the minute you've passed it, you could just tip the whole lot into the bin. Don't do that, there's a lot of liquid still left in here. Just make sure that every precious drip has been squeezed out of your veg and prawn heads, and then that can go in the bin. Big knob of butter into the pan and on goes the heat. Now, 2 spoons of flour. Very important to cook out the flour, get rid of that kind of dry taste. Now it's time to start adding the fish stock. The flour and butter is going to slightly thicken the soup. Absolutely delicious, but it needs seasoning. A good pinch of salt, a little special something, a splash of brandy. Now I need a few slices of baguette. That should do it. And onto each of those, I want to put a little bit of oil. Right, my little croutons are lovely and golden. They want to be really quite dry so they can float around a bit on the top of your soup. Heat back onto the soup. Here I have a selection of sole, bream and plaice. When that's coming up to a gentle bubble, I'm going to slip them in, and that'll bring so much more fish flavour to the soup. So there's a few bubbles coming up. In goes the sole. In goes the bream. And in goes the plaice. Also going into my soup is the prawns that we peeled earlier. This is going to be so flavoursome. And finally, some mussels. Make sure they go right under the soup. Okay, so the fish is cooked and it's time to plate up. As the roux melts into the soup, it'll also thicken it as you move your spoon around. A little grind of black pepper. And there is my Cheats fish soup with cheaty roux.